were very quickly off the list for us because that is high priority.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, my daughter learned a ton. She's bilingual. She learned how to deal with mean girls. She's much more resilient. And she just, we had to layer on a homeschool program on top of that just to keep her like on par with California public education, which I would say is substandard.
I was going to say that. Yes. That's not a high bar.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we came back with the intention of leaving, and we chose Portugal as the place that we wanted to move to.
So jealous.
And Portugal is lovely and wonderful, and there's a fabulous school there. My daughter's already been accepted. Like, it's great. And it's much more complicated to move to Portugal than it is to Mexico. The visa process is much more complicated. I mean, Mexico.
Well, it's the whole EU thing, right?
Yeah. So even visiting there is much more restricted. You just have less time as an American that you can be there than going to Mexico. You can go to Mexico for 180 days on a tourist visa. The EU, you can be there for 90 days, and then you have to leave for 90 days. Mexico, you have to leave for a blink.
You can go tag Oakland and come back.
Dip your toe over the border.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, quite literally. Like, we went to Belize one day. We went we did a couple things. Now, technically, you're not supposed to live in Mexico. You should get residency, and they are cracking down a little bit, and so there's things to consider. But anyway, we can't even try to game the system in Portugal. Like, we have to go through a visa process, and it's part of why we chose Portugal is because there is a fairly doable process. It's complicated. It's just like step 1, step 2, step 3. Like, there's a bunch of steps.
Yeah.
But one of the main reasons we chose it is it's like a miniature California, but it's cheaper and the people are nicer. And B, there's a pathway to citizenship. So we can move there, and there are in other places, but you know, if most of those places you have to be a millionaire.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which we're not.
Not yet.
Though if we sold our house in Petaluma,
right,
which we have been dancing on that line quite a bit. So anyway, we are. So my daughter could graduate high school there, fluent in 4 languages. She's because she would learn Portuguese. The school also focuses on other languages, so she would learn French, and she would have an EU passport. And so I have anxiety attacks, not literally, like I shouldn't use that term because it's not true and it's not fair to people who really have anxiety attacks, but I do have like some anxiety that happens from time to time. Like, Portugal's really far away. Mexico, like I said, I could commute to Oakland. It was really easy. Right. Portugal is not. It's, it's a long flight, and it's a lot of money. And it is with my business being primarily based in the U.S. still, and who's coming to me,
right?
It's the time difference, and so there's all these things that like don't feel exactly right. But
I'm trying to think of the time zone. It's like
there's
1 over Greenwich or something.
I don't know. It's 8 hours time difference.
Yeah,
right.
8 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're right at Greenwich.
I don't know.
All I know is that they're right next to Spain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's another language. I mean, there's another thing. Like, another language to learn.
But when you're living there, especially at her age, I mean...
for her, it's for nothing.
I'm not worried about her. But even for you, I mean, I'm probably a little older than you are, and I didn't even start learning Spanish until, probably 8 years ago or something like that. And what I do know was just based on having been there for 3 months, and like I can only imagine how great it would be now if I'd actually practice it more than just, a little bit. I don't want to. Yes. I just read on your website, you are offering a scholarship. This scholarship is very interesting to me. And I've been dancing. We've been talking a little bit on some of these episodes about Danielle not just becoming open in her. I'm very open with the things that I talk about, but I don't get very vulnerable here. There is something that really touches me, and I don't talk about it for a number of reasons, and I'm starting to change my mindset about that. But it is immigration, and there are moments when I think about my feelings about immigration and immigrants and refugees and this type of thing, and I can be sitting by myself and be in tears and figuring out it's not enough for me to just be emotional about it. I am at a place now where I feel solid enough in myself that I need to educate myself more about it, and I need to start speaking up about it because it's something that literally moves me to tears any moment of the day when I think about it.
Yeah.
And so when I read about the scholarship that you're looking for, somebody who could potentially learn leadership in this area, I think I would love to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Just because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy that somebody else cares about it.
Yeah. Oh, I care a lot about it. And yeah, that could be a whole other episode about why. But generally because my first major work in the nonprofit sector was with high school students, and many of them were from either themselves from mostly Mexico, just because of the proximity here. This was in the North Bay, but some from El Salvador and Guatemala, and or their families were from there. So, and many of them were undocumented, and so, you know, for a decade watching kind of how things swung. And my first introduction to any of this topic, like I grew up in a very small conservative town in Northern California that is like, you know, could have been placed in the Midwest.
Are we not naming the town? It's a secret.
No, I mean, I grew up in Placerville, which has changed significantly since I left. But it was 6,000 people when I left.
Kind of the gateway to Lake Tahoe, right?
Yes, exactly. It's at the base of South Lake Tahoe. Most people know it as the place you stop to pee on your way to
or get breakfast.
Yeah, but now it's like one of the cool like little towns of the U.S. and it is like very hip, and it's shifted quite a bit. I mean, it's like almost twice as big as it was when I left, but it's very conservative, very Republican, very kind of like gun-toting, and most people don't leave. And when you don't leave, you don't have perspective.
Right.
And so that's what I had the opportunity to leave many, many times when I was young, because I was a very serious dancer. And so I got scholarships and opportunities almost every summer from the time I was 12 through the time that I left to go to college, to go dance in pre-professional programs. So I started getting some perspective that made me pretty quickly say I want to leave. Anyway, I lived in Arizona. I lived in Bisbee, Arizona on Border Road in 2000. And I had kind of no idea that immigration was a thing until I had to drive through the areas and be stopped by Border Patrol, like at like checkpoints, as well as...
No kidding.
Yeah. And I had like really dark hair that was really long at the time that I would wear in a braid down my back. And if I walked down my road at night by myself, I would get stopped by Border Patrol.
So how far from the border is Bisbee?
Bisbee. It's on the border.
Right on the border.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the border town actually is Nogales. In Bisbee it's Naco.
They tend to have these twin communities right on the other side.
Yeah.
Right?
So the one in Bisbee is Naco. And so you could but like literally I lived on the road called Border Road, and like between Naco and my road was just like desert.
Yeah.
And I was you were in racing. I went to herb school. That's why I was in Bisbee.
Yeah.
And
that was gonna be my next question. Like, how did you end up in Bisbee? I grew up in Arizona, so I'm familiar with this kind of area.
Bisbee.
So I went to herb school with a renowned herbalist who has now passed away. Anyhow, his wife one day asked some of the students if they wanted to go out on a community project with her, and we were carrying jugs of water out into the desert and leaving jugs of water and picking up the
God
empty
bless
ones.
You. Jeez.
And I was like, why are we doing this? And
wait, how old were you at this point?
I was 24, 22, 22 maybe.
Yeah. Just now figuring out that there's a world outside of your literally your space bubble.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I first got introduced, and then got really like learning and like part of like political activism groups in Bisbee, like that were, and
So,
but I
not to date it, but what year are we talking about? Because
So we're going to date it.
shit has gotten so weird now.
Oh, yeah,
and it
this-
seemed
this-
horrible then.
that was in 2000.
2000, yeah.
So this was pre 9/11. And
that was with a fairly pro guest worker immigration
Yeah.
administration.
Yeah.
Which is, they were actually pretty forward leaning on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing to note is that Bisbee is a community of artists, activists, social rejects, and like otherwise not wanting to participate in society kind of people. So anything that had to do with the man.
Oh, nice.
So you got Border Patrol agents like anywhere around. They're building towers, looking out. All, that was not. So that the climate was definitely different then, but there was a lot of care for the people that were coming across. And then I worked with students who were undocumented, and that was where my heart really started breaking. In fact, there was a point that I really believed I was going to go back to school and become an immigration lawyer. And I sometimes wonder if I should have done that, especially right now, where that is like
such a need.
Really, really, the immigration lawyers right now, our work, the ones that are volunteering, are so overwhelmed.
Oh, for sure. God, like I literally have goosebumps. From
You do
head
have
to toe,
goosebumps.
like happening. Right
Yeah.
now. So I'm just so.
And I mean, I could tell you real people stories after stories after stories. So anyway, this started last session that we wanted, but on a different topic, which was climate change. And I can go to a kind of dark place on that one. So I wanted to do something more, like what can I do? And supporting my daughter in the youth climate strike and, lots of other activities, but decided to offer a scholarship for anybody working on climate justice or toward climate change. Not toward it, but against it. Anyway, so...
I mean, it's unbelievable. We're still at the awareness phase.
Yeah, right.
Like, how in the fuck do we still have to convince people?
Well, I just learned that my husband's bandmate was that he played with last night was living in Sonoma County with some friends for 6 months who were flat earthers.
Wait, what does that mean?
They believe the earth is flat.
Oh, shut the hell up. Are you serious?
And I was like, I thought they all lived in the Midwest, so there's me for stereotype,
Even
right?
in the Midwest. I think flat earthers, man.
I did not know that was
it's a thing.
Yeah.
These are the, oh my God.
I don't know.
You should Google it,
I'm going to. This is a hashtag that's going on the show
I'm going
notes.
to walk the plank a little bit, but it's like anti-vaxxers kind of get to me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So the flat earthers, if you Google it and you look at their reasoning for like all the different reasons why they know the earth is flat.
They keep proving that it's round too.
It's kind of hysterical.
The guy with the rocket, and then this other guy came up with this experiment that he said was going to, and then it's wrong because it keeps coming back like the earth is round.
Right.
Huh. I wonder if that means anything.
Oh my God.
Something's wrong in my experiment.
Let's set ourselves back 2,000 years.
Yeah.
God.
So this session, we wanted to do something and offer a scholarship for somebody who is on the front lines of supporting the crisis that's happening at our border right now.
When will you award the scholarship?
It's technically due tomorrow. Okay. Now, what day is today?
Today's
It's technically due today.
So hurry.
Yeah.
Oh my
This will
gosh.
come out tomorrow, though.
Yeah, though I already
You need to be really fast.
I already extended the application for a couple of people. Yeah. So it's due next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm just making up some random day.
Oh my gosh. No,
So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
We need more of that too.
I know. Did you see, I'm sure you did because everybody has seen this picture of the seesaws at the border.
Yeah.
Oh God, I cried.
I almost stole that from my
literally
picture
almost cried
for the scholarship.
I just thought, I hope, and this is where I start getting angry at
people?
myself. It's like I'm so skeptical nowadays about like what's real and what's not anymore. Sometimes I feel like I'm spinning and I'm like, is this really happening? And I did have a moment in which I thought, please tell me this is a real photo. Like, this is a real deal. There are these two children on either side of the wall playing on this. Tell me it's not a photo op that there's a bunch of white boys that they put on one side to just like, I don't think that that's the case.